I want to hear about you, please. So please
That's
share with
okay.
me.
You can use and abuse. You can use me.
I just really want to hear about what you've been up to, because your life's so exciting, and every time I see you, there's beautiful pictures of you doing something awesome. And
Yeah, no, there's like a lot of stuff has happened. Just the like final outcome is that I have a green card. I'm immigrating. Staying in America. That's it. I just live here. So yeah, that's all I've been up to really. And then I wanted to go on a nice tropical holiday, so I had to stay in America. So I chose Hawaii. And it was beautiful there, just always nice. And yeah, it's not that exciting. I'm just working really hard. I went through hell back in South Africa. That's what made me just say screw that and come here. I would go jogging. I would go jogging in the streets. And the first day that I did, the engineer, this is when I was flying in the Congo and delivering food for the World Food Program and the ICRC. And helping people there through flights. The engineer of our flight said, please take this knife. So I had this little switchblade knife in my hand. I felt like such an idiot, jogging along the dirt streets with all the trucks going past in the heat of the jungle. And it was just women and children, you know, carrying stuff on their heads, walking from A to B, mundane routine of life. Nobody was trying to kill me or hurt me or take advantage of me. And that was in the deepest, darkest equatorial regions of Africa. And eventually I had a string of young children that would try and run, you know, behind me and come running with me. And they would always say, they would have this little voice, they go, Mama, Mama, dem blanc. Like Le Blanc, you know, like, look, there's the whites. Because I had this long blonde hair, just running along there with my pale skin. And eventually I had this one guy, like, this older kid, because none of them could keep up for very long and they'd all give up. Even grown men that were security guards for houses, they'd see me run by and they'd try and run with me and keep up, and they'd say, courage, courage, which means like courage in French. And they were so like happy to see me and run along with me for a few paces. Eventually this little boy did keep up, and I felt sorry for him because he was quite a few meters behind, but he was trying so hard. He was about 14 or something. Little Congolese boy. I wish I could have adopted him. And I would like pour water down his throat, you know, whenever we'd have a water break. And eventually he would just wait outside the like compound, waiting for me to come running. When I had a flying day, we'd drive out in the like truck, and I'd be in my pilot uniform, and I'd see his little face with his earphones and his massive radio that he used to plug in to listen to music while he ran, and I'd like wave goodbye, like, sorry mate, no running today, but he'd be there like waiting.
oh, sweet Jen. So you've flown out of so many interesting things, and that was while you were actually flying supplies into war-torn areas.
Yeah, we do contracts. It was for a lovely company in South Africa that would send us out 2 months at a time. One of the places that I flew was Iraq. We were based in Bahrain, and we were working for DHL, delivering the mail to the American Air Force bases. So we'd fly to all interesting, like Kuwait and Doha and different Air Force bases and things. And then we'd sit in the airplane until dawn and then fly into Iraqi airspace. And then do like a spiral descent into madness for the landing, just so that nobody could actually shoot us down. And then we'd also have to climb up and spiral out of there so that nobody could really aim at us. Frick. And at one point we were flying into Baghdad, and some colleagues of mine got a mortar rocket blown up in front, like right next to the aircraft. So we had a company meeting, and everyone who no longer wished to fly into Baghdad had to raise their hands. And the others negotiated $500 a day for their life. But eventually we had to get pulled out of Baghdad because it got really bad. But we'd still fly into Talil, which was just west of Baghdad. Just you know, doing our job. Not the day's work at 5 a.m. taking off for Baghdad. It was just
craziness, Jen. Absolute madness.
12 hours so that I could get into an airline. I think that there needs to be like some kind of communication lessons at school. It definitely starts at school to give kids a way and a means of diplomatically dealing with sexual harassment and with aggression and bullying and all that shit when they get into the workforce, because we're not equipped. we don't know how to handle it because we are expecting, that we're going to get a job and live our lives and that's it. But yeah, there's a lot of hierarchy and a lot of bullshit. And we've lost touch with our instincts a lot because we're thrust into such a robotic school society where there's no free thinking and stuff. And I mean, for me to say that, us, we were the freest thinkers ever.
You and me were wild, man. Within that confined environment of Virginia, which was a very Catholic school, Catholic set-up type school, which was very stringent. We were very free there.
Yes, I mean, we seeked truth. We questioned everything. We did our own thing. We were called rebels. I mean, just because we had opinions and our own voices, and that they tried to stifle us and keep us quiet and keep us down. But at the end of the day, I really think that there needs to be some kind of new age communication skills class to deal with sexual harassment.
Let me give it to you this way, and I agree with you on that. The problem I have with that is this is all deliberate. They deliberately feed sexual aggression through mass media to people, which causes and encourages people to behave the way they do because they want that to happen. It's a breaking down of humanity. It's the messing up of our emotions. All these things are involved in the destruction of the human being, along with all the poisonous foods and the bad media and the lies and bullshit they feed us. It's all part of it, Jen. They're never going to educate people to cope with it. They don't want us to cope with it. They want us to be broken. Bottom line.
That is so true. And that's why I think that a lot of Americans and a lot of people that are seeking enlightenment and broadening their connection to essence, I think that's why they just put their head in the sand a lot, because they just feel that it's an impossible war, that you're butting your head against a hard place constantly, and that it's pointless, and that at the end of the day there's powers beyond even the powers that you were struggling against, and that it goes so deep, the rabbit hole just goes so deep that just at the end of the day, be the change you want to see and live your life. That's how it seems to be the attitude in America amongst the people that I've met. The ones that really want to change the world or heal the world or whatever, they just seem to have gone inside themselves rather than trying to actually do anything externally.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, there is a lot of that around, and unfortunately it's counteracted for the cause of moving forward and evolving. They think that they're doing the world a favor by being all love and light, but you know what? The world is a balance of light and dark. Creation happens within light and dark, not just in the place of light.
Yes, I agree. I mean, from that awful, tragic experience where, I had built all those hours out in Africa, done my time, paid my dues as a pilot, as my chosen profession, worked my ass off to get the money just to do it, blah, blah, blah. To go through that, instead of going, oh shit, well that's the end of the world for me, from all that just to nothing, and it's taken away in a heartbeat. No, screw that. Just very positive about it now is that thank goodness that happened, and it builds character, it builds strength. And I do believe, like you say, that when we go through the storm, eventually we're going to reach the eye of the storm and enlightenment. We're going to hit notes that we would never have been able to reach otherwise. We really do develop as a person when we go through hardships. The ups and downs of life are actually beautiful in their entirety.
I agree. We are at our best when we're overcoming adversity.
Yes. And I really admire and commend the beautiful work that you're doing about South Africa. Like we were discussing earlier about your ebooks and your documentaries and all that work and effort that you're putting in to exposing the violence and genocide there and the war on the Boers. It's so outdated that's still going on because it's just an excuse for violence on certain criminals' parts. So well done, Mal. Seriously, it's beautiful. Good.
Jen, I can see you on the same spiritual path. You're a little bit behind me because I was reading Eckhart Tolle 4 years ago, but I would say we're on the same. We're on the same path. You and I have a general understanding. My knowledge is a bit probably more studied than yours. So I've spent a lot of focus on it. But what I would say is, I know you get it, and I know you and I are probably, we both sort of born Year of the Dragon for a reason. It's a very, very spiritually important year to be here. We open-minded, free-thinking wanderers of this planet. here to be free and live free. You know, and that is what it's about. That's the divine plan. It is freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I fight for that every day of my life in whatever capacity I can, because until I am truly free, I will never really, truly be happy. You know, and I think I'm a pretty positive and upbeat person in general, considering all the shit that I look at. You must see some of the photos I get sent of mushed up Boers, how they've been beaten into pulp. I mean, you must see the shit I get to look at, Jen. It's hardcore. Yeah, but you know what? I look at the stuff, it makes me cry, but all it does, it also makes me more fucking determined. These fuckers are not going to get away with it. We are going to get them eventually. We are.
Yeah.
And you know, there's people stick their head in the sand because they don't feel they have the power to deal with these. You know what? I look at the dark stuff because it empowers me. It makes me more empowered to know I've looked in the face of evil and I'm not afraid.
Yes. That's beautiful. And I do think that, you know, that whole chauvinistic hierarchical setup in South Africa has allowed, you know, and instigated a lot of the violence that is being kind of just free for all, like running amok down there. Like, people can come and smash a window and walk off with, and slit your throat and walk off with all your belongings and have taken your life. And there's nothing to stop them. There's just nothing. It's like a zombie world. It's like an apocalypse going on down there. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Even my grandmother, who, you know, my grandmother, she's in her late 70s.
Yes.
My Hungarian grandmother, her car was stolen at Christmas. I mean, leave her alone. She's, for goodness sake. But luckily it was only, you know, I think, and how sick is this, to think, thank God it was only her car stolen. Because it could have been so much worse when you think about the boys and what they're going through on the farms. I just wish that the male chauvinistic hierarchical attitude would just drop. On both sides, there's such an ego, from the violent criminal side to the masterminds. Sometimes it's them that are masterminding it, but to the guys that are having such a grudge against the blacks and having such a bad attitude in general against women, and they're causing their own hell. If they could just change. But it's so hard to say that because, you know, who am I? I'm not perfect, and I want to try and transcend my ego, and I don't want to point fingers and blame, but at the same time, realistically looking at it, both sides need to change. There needs to be such a change of heart in South Africa.
Well, everybody needs to take personal responsibility. We need to look at what we can do in our immediate environment to make a change. And you remember what it was like in Durban, okay? Durban, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I call it apathy central, yeah? I mean, have you ever known a more apathetic place in the world? And not being funny, but definitely quite stupid. You talk to people there, and I swear, and I think to myself, did we really go to the same school?
Yeah.
You know, it's sad because it's a wonderful place and it's a beautiful place. And I'm so proud to have grown up there and all the wonderful people that I met there. But the people still stuck in that little bubble, unfortunately, still live under Umhlanga rock and don't understand the bigger picture and don't want to because they're afraid to look. There's so much fear bred into that culture that any more fear is too much to deal with. They need to actually face it. They need to look at what's really going on. And that's why I've written my books and put my material out there, made it available for free, because there's a lot of people who won't pay for books or who can't afford to pay for books. And I believe information is the common heritage of all beings, not just like the exclusive intellectual material, those who can afford it.
No matter what, you have the passion and you have just a calling for this. And I really appreciate the fact that you're doing this. I'm grateful to know you and that you're my friend.
Yeah, it's great to have grown up with you, Jen. I was speaking to a friend of ours who's visiting our house, is upstairs. I was just saying, it's amazing our story from when we were children, because like you grew up, you were on Harrison Drive, weren't you?
Yeah.
Harrison Drive, which is just like I was on Wattle Road, which is just off Cyprus, which goes into Harrison. And I remember all these people in our area that grew up around us, like Nolene Nemo and Natalie Latzelberger and all these kids who now I look back on them, okay, and I've seen a couple of them when I was home recently in 2010, and I feel so sorry for these people because they're almost trapped there in their ignorance, And I think something about having actually gotten out of South Africa at a young age, as we did, and having traveled, it really opened up our perspective. And we've really sort of been able to, get a big sort of world view of what's really going on, as opposed to just, that one little bubble view.
Yeah. I left South Africa last year. I've been a year in the States now. And I must admit, I did get sucked into complacency syndrome. And I even sat and watched a friend of mine come home and be having just been smashed and grabbed with blood trickling down her hands and her face because of the shattered glass that went in, and go, we have to get out of here, we have to leave, this is so scary, I didn't know what was happening, young girl, and then only to say a few months later, no, I love it here, that's fine, it's fine, and then to come home another time with no car and say, I've just been robbed. They got me to lay down on the pavement. She was going out to ride her horse, and it was in a bit of a farmy area. Two guys just came up, had guns. She could have lost her life. She could have got raped. Luckily, nothing traumatic happened except, well, how traumatic is it to be told at gunpoint to lay down and we're taking your car? And then, we have to leave, we've got to get out of here, this is bullshit. They're still there, she's still there. And it's just like, what?
Yeah.
And whilst leaving might not solve the problem, to live in that amount of stress, with that amount of adrenal overstimulation constantly, it's not healthy. And it's just a bubble, like you say. It's just a continuous cycle. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And next time it will get worse. It's smash and grab, then it's a robbery at gunpoint. Then it'll be a rape. Then it'll be fighting HIV infections, and then ultimately it'll be a murder. And that's it. That's the life cycle of somebody in South Africa right now.
Yeah. Very, very sad, Jen, because it's such a beautiful place, eh?
The people, we grew up with our black mamas. I remember I had my parents were at work, and then we came there when I was 5 already, but I was still strapped to the back of my black mama. And her kids were like in the kaya, and we would go and talk and play with them and dance with them, play music. I didn't see it as liberal. I just saw it as, oh, cool, more friends. And I still dance with them in my mind when I'm dancing in a club, or if some good music comes on. That's the way I move my body. That's my culture, because that's what I grew up seeing and experiencing. And so it's not that I don't have any love. I do. I love so compassionately, and it's just those rotten apples that spoil the bowl of apples. Those few really heinous criminals that just are ruining the reputation of all the black people in South Africa. And it's a continuous thing. It reminds me of Israel. It's tit for tat. Now they did this, we're going to do that. Now they did this, we're going to do that. And obviously what's happened with the whites is that they're just taking it. They're just taking it, and they can't do anything about it. They're just stuck there in that bubble, hoping things will get better. Well, they're not going to get better if they just sit around like that and just not doing anything about it.
That's the problem, is they're too apathetic. They don't feel that they have the power, or they're too scared.
Not changing themselves. Imagine, okay, this is crazy, but just imagine that handful of 1 million or whatever white people in South Africa would just all come out of their houses and their barbed wire fences and their electric fences and all that craziness that they've locked themselves into, and go into the township in a massive horde to go and shake hands and hug the black people and go and sit and talk with them and just say, like, hey, let's start fresh. Let's just start again. Let's start new. Let's bury the hatchet. Let's just forget all the shit of the past. Let's heal now. Let's just be together as one, because we're all one essence. Like you said about Eckhart Tolle, his very thing is that we're all one, and that we're one essence. We're from one source. It doesn't matter that we're different. We could be different species. We could be different creatures. Dogs, cats, cows, humans, whatever. We all have that energy, life force in us, which comes from one source. And as soon as we can see that we are each other, in different forms. I am you, you are me in a different form. That breaks down all the barriers, because it's how can you not love you? If you love yourself and you see yourself in others as one and the same, therefore you will love them as much as you love yourself. And that's the only time when I really believe healing will be able to be facilitated. Then, of course, again, there are just criminal-minded people that just don't care, that just want to murder and rape and kill, just out of sheer boredom or upbringing of this is the life, this is the only way to live. Those people need urgent help. But they're not the entire population of South Africa or Africa or this world. There's violence everywhere, and those criminals need help. So there's a mental problem there, some kind of mental disturbance and issues. And this world has the means to help them. And like you said, better diet, better education system, less robotic, bubble inspiring school systems that we have these days, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, our education system, if you think about it at school, how stripped down were we? We used to have school uniform inspections. When you and I went and got our hair permed, bloody hell, the teachers had a cadenza. Remember?
I remember purposely wearing a black thong just because we had white dresses that we had to wear petticoats. Just to rebel against this whole bullshit system. I mean, why wear a uniform? That is so ridiculous. We're not in the army.
Well, unfortunately...
Why can't we choose our own underwear, especially if you're wearing a petticoat anyway, so you can't see anything? But when they lift your skirt up to check your underpants, underwear inspection, oh, she's wearing black underwear. Oh, she's in trouble. Ooh, how naughty. What a naughty girl.
Do you know, Jen, I once got detention for having mismatched white socks. I had socks that had stripes going vertically and socks that had stripes going horizontally, and because they weren't matching, I got given detention by a girl who ended up becoming one of my best friends after school, strangely enough.
There's just no room for individuality and free thinking, and yet individuality and free thinking is the very thing that people want out of you when you hit the workforce. They're like, come on, make up a good idea, invent something, create something. Don't be a burden on society and go on the dole and just sit around picking your nose because you haven't got a thought of something to do. But yeah, hypocrisy just the name of the day, right?
Yeah.
Now, I actually have the video of 1980 something, standard 2. I was in standard 2. It's like grade 4. I'm like 8 or 9 years old. School play. All those girls that you mentioned are, in the school play. And if you watch that tape, it's all only white kids, and we all look as miserable as fuck. We all have dead eyes. There's no expression. There's no joy. You can see the tone of the strictness of the day at that school and at that environment and that generation. How we grew up into free thinking, free spirits, I don't know. Because had they had their way, we would have been suppressed into just...
But Jen, think about you at school. You were such a free spirit. You were one of the smartest, one of the fittest kids out there. Yet you couldn't keep a school because you were just so naughty compared to their strict standards. You were just totally rebellious, and you did silly things just for the sake of rebelling, like smoking. You didn't even enjoy it.
I've just recently watched a movie called Runaways with Kristen Stewart and what's her name? I remember Blanco. But anyway, they're playing Joan Jett, and they're playing up the story of how Joan Jett and the Black Hearts became or came to be, and all you see how they are. That reminds me of us so much. But yeah, just the struggle to be an individual in that kind of restrained society. And ironically enough, I quit smoking, drinking, and any kind of form of that kind of thing, which they're drugs in their own right, by the age of 14. then when we were finished matric, I remember girls and people who had been suppressed or suppressed themselves or hadn't experienced anything yet, any naughty quote-unquote stuff. I mean, how naughty is cigarette smoking if your own father smokes? And everyone in society is drinking at bars and things. That's the thing you do when you come out of school. It's like numb the masses, hold them back through liquor. But yet they're the ones that as soon as they were done with school and they were like 17, 18 years old, all hell broke loose. And they were getting pregnant straight out of school. They were picking up filthy habits, smoking, drinking, trying drugs, getting addicted, going into rehab, all kinds of shit going down. Just because they were so suppressed.
Yeah.
So suppressed at school. And yet the free-spirited ones ended up being the goody-goodies. Or not the goody-goodies, but we knew better because we had tried it. We tried it and we knew this is bullshit, this is toxic, this is poison, it's not for us. And yeah, better off for it. Just that little bit of self-indulgence, that self-freedom to try something. To the point that I didn't even need to try anything further. I remember challenging myself when I was in an over-18 nightclub, as I always used to get into an over-18 nightclub, either through getting in through the front door, conning my way in, or, just batting your eyelids and sucking up to the bouncers, and the next thing you let you in, or climbing through the back window. Whatever it took to get in, it was just a challenge. It wasn't that what people misunderstood was I wasn't trying to get into the club to be naughty and to be bad and sin and whatever. I just wanted to get an A for the challenge and B because I loved dancing and I had too much energy. I just wanted to go in there and dance all night, and that's all I do. But originally when you first got in, you'd be overwhelmed with the excitement, and there was a wonderful drink out, if there is such a thing as a wonderful drink. It was a wonderful marketing strategy called Witch's Brew. And remember those Witch's Brews?
I remember those.
Just because it was called Witch's Brew, I'd put up with the disgusting taste of alcohol, sugared up and gross. But yeah, you'd be cool because you'd have your Witch's Brew. And eventually challenging myself one night to say, okay, it's early. I'm going to be the first one on the dance floor, little 13-year-old me, and in an over-18 club. I'm just going to get on the dance floor first, no matter what song plays, no matter if I like it or not, with absolutely no alcohol in me, nothing in my hand to hold on to as a security net, and see how that feels. I just wanted to feel. I wanted to experience the full range of emotion and the challenge of that, because it's embarrassing and it's shameful, it's hard, it's difficult to get up in front of an entire audience and just be. And that's what Eckhart Tolle talks about, is just be and be present without any habituance or any bullshit or any crutch. Just be. And that was my challenge. And so by 14, done with smoking, done with drinking, and never looked back.
What you've just said there is so significant, because I will take that one step further. Just be, but also have no fear of what other people think. And that's what I've learned along my journey. Further to that is, if you're going to be, you got to also be okay with that. Let me tell you something, Jen, that like you go back to Mshlanga now, you mention my name, they think I'm a freak and a weirdo, okay, because I'm into stuff that's very out there for them, yeah?
Uh-huh.
So, and my movies and my books, and all of this and whatnot, but I don't fear what they think, because the way I see it is, if people judge you, it only defines them, it doesn't define you.
Beautifully put.
Yeah? Because a person who can just be will also just accept other people just being, even if the other person is being a complete moron.
Yes.
Yeah? There will be no judgment. Who are we to judge anyone, really? But yeah,
exactly.
and this is unfortunately, when and I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because this is a syndrome of our hometown was, apart from having this constant control put around us at school, we also had the fear of what other people thought that kept us in line. We were policing each other.
Oh, yeah. Ratting people out. There was no camaraderie. But in other countries where there is camaraderie and that there is, I've got your back, there's still always that ape-like syndrome that, like, when you watch apes, they've got, or even dogs, they've always got a hierarchy, the alpha male, the alpha female, bits of rivalry and all that shit, competition, competitiveness. I mean, it has its place when appropriate, but to pull somebody down based on their passions, that is really wrong. But there will be no remorse from others, because until we can all transcend our egos, they'll continue in a very destructive, self-destructive pattern, and the chain of events will just be ultimately that they won't hear a person's beautiful message, no matter how you wrap it, no matter how beautiful it is, just because they're so trapped in their ego, defending their brain and wanting to be right.
Yeah.
So Eckhart Tolle really puts it well. And I recently read a quote saying, "Don't judge me for my sins just because they're different from yours."
I love it. That's awesome, actually. Yeah, exactly. You know, how can we judge anyone for their experiences? And like you've said, and I thoroughly believe, out of the darkness comes the light. We need the darkness to teach us the biggest lessons of our lives. Like when I had my car accident, you know, no one would ever have thought like having my whole body scarred and being in a wheelchair for a year would ever be a good thing. Do you know, it was my car accident that made me stop going to church, and actually made me realize there's something more going on a spiritual level because of the out-of-body experience that I had. And that's when I started learning healing and Reiki. And it was Reiki that made me realize that we actually have the ability to manipulate and use energy for healing. My God, there's much more going on out there and we're not being taught about it. And it was that opened up my perception to those sort of things. So it wouldn't have happened had I not had that car accident. And as terrible as it was at the time, at 18 years old, to be in a wheelchair for a year and lose my first year of university, do you remember, we were at Varsity College together.
You know, I was still doing self-experiments, so I think I only did about a month or a few days, actually, of varsity college.
We did the orientation. I remember we had the biggest party at the orientation week, and then I was there for the year, but I had the accident in the August, and I didn't finish.
Sorry, because I actually didn't know about that. I think I had left for Israel already.
Yeah, I think you were on your little mission, your tangent.
Well, no, I said to my mom that, when she said, "What do you want to do with your life?" I said, "I want to act. I've always been an artist. I want to act. I want to draw. I want to do art. Yeah. That's all I want to do, drama and comedy and whatever." And she said, "No, you can't go to Cape Town. That's the only place that offers it because you're just going to party all the time." I said, "Yeah, but partying is part of it, part of being young, and I want to do that." So she was like, "No, you have to do a Bachelor of Arts in Varsity College." Well, if you don't, I followed my passion, which was I don't want to do that. So I went for a few lessons and I said, "Mom, honestly, it's a mistake. It's a waste of time."
Jen, do you remember that building? It was like that terrible building the Varsity College was in. Do you know how fucking depressing that building was?
It was just it was a sheeple setup.
It was like little boxes. We were all crammed into little boxes in a tiny office block, and that was our university.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was like a prison.
Thank goodness, though, because I said to the person sitting next to me, when this lecture is over in Psychology 101, I'm going to go to the wheel, get my nose pierced, and I'm not coming back. and the kid looked at me and said, "Hell, you're not going to do that. No way, you're not going to do that." It was fear, their own fear, saying I wouldn't do that, really. But to me, you wouldn't do that. Projecting their fear onto me. I said, "Yes, I will. Watch me." And off I went. Got my nose pierced. "Mom, I'm not going back to university there at Varsity College. So what do you want to do?" "Well, I'm gonna hitchhike to Johannesburg and try acting up there." And so I went there. I actually also had a car accident. It's just we were hitchhiking, and some drunk guy picked us up, but we didn't know. And thank God my friend convinced me to sit in the back seat, because otherwise I would have not only have joined you in a wheelchair, but probably wouldn't be here, actually. I wouldn't be here. That front seat, passenger seat, was crumpled, and that guy was such a crazy driver. He just wrecked his car, and we got whiplash, hitchhiked back to Durban with a neck brace. And my mom said, "Well, what are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Fuck, I don't know, Mom. I'm 16 and I don't know what to do." I was already finished with school. She said, "Well, I just turned 17." She suggested kibbutz or pair. So I went and volunteered at a kindergarten, and then I was like, kibbutz. I wasn't ready for child rearing just yet. I love children. I'm so playful, but I wore myself out because I wanted to play with each and every child. I just wanted to play with them, and the teachers just loved me because they could take advantage of my naivety and just I would just be the entertainment and just play and put on plays with the children and help them. And oh no, I was just worn out. So I was like, farm work for me. But I'm sorry to hear that you were in a wheelchair, and I actually didn't know the extent of your injuries until you just told me now. I knew you'd been in a car accident, which you told me later when I'd seen you.
Yeah, very bad, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's water under the bridge now. It's old news, long time ago, and it did certainly bring me to a certain realization. But I really want to stay on your story, Jen. So how long were you in the kibbutz for?
Only 2 months, but I ended up living there for quite a long time, living in Israel, because my acting career really took off there.
Really?
I know that. Yeah, I was in so many things. I was in Ramat Aviv Gimel, which is the equivalent of Isidingo in South Africa, which is the equivalent of Neighbours in Australia, which is, I guess, the equivalent of EastEnders in England.
So was that in English?
It's in English, Afrikaans, Zulu, Bantu, it's all the languages. Sorry, I was thinking of Isidingo. Ramat Aviv Gimel is in Hebrew, but I had a small part that they kind of gave me a small part where I spoke a few English lines. But it wasn't a big part at all because my Hebrew wasn't good and my accent sucked. But I did get a little bit of Hebrew. I did so many commercials. Oh my goodness. I was just like the commercial person.
Do you know what I saw you once when I was back in South Africa? I came home from living in London for a bit. Can't remember, early 2000 noughties. I was Spa when a car is cool. Do you remember that advert?
I love it because you know what? That was so much fun. I had just totally chopped off my long blonde hair and I let my natural color come out. And it kind of reminds me of Kristen Stewart when she's a little kid and she had that awful haircut in one of her movies when she was really young. That haircut. It was just like chopped off, normal color, plain Jane, nothing special, but yet rocking it. Like just
you had this little hot pants on. Like I remember this little denim jeans, and I could see the camera was following you around circularly.
It was a crazy advert for crazy. It was like energy.
Yeah.
They were breaking out of their like uniformity and doing different things at that point, and they were getting very creative and artistic. But yeah, it was just they wanted like a tomboy, rough, tough kind of down to earth chick, and it was very liberating.
I fell over. I watched that, and I was like, "That's a Jen! Wow!" I pissed myself. It was so funny. And you were so good in it as well, though, Jen. You were so committed to the advert. I must say, you're very convincing.
Dude, it was fun. It was fun. And from there, it was funny because that advert was played so often, and it was played in Isidingo. And when I was on Isidingo, it was still being played in between. So then, by the time I was in Isidingo, my hair had grown, and I'd been dyeing it blonde again for the role of this dumb blonde that I played on Isidingo. So it was freaky. but I guess at the end of the day, you always got to be true to your passion.
Yeah. And then, of course, when was the Steven Seagal film? What year was that?
That was in 2005. That was okay.
Were you the lead role? What was the story there?
I actually was supposed to play a really cheesy character. I was supposed to play the role of, if you've seen the movie, there's a reporter, a really dumb blonde reporter in the beginning of the movie, and she's like, if I crouch down, does it look like I'm near the action? She's like really scared and bombs are going off all around her. It's a traditional Steven Seagal opening sequence of Warzone. And so I auditioned for that role. And Don Fauntleroy, the director, said from the darkness behind the camera, "So, Jennifer Shaia, do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy playing that character?" And I said, "No, I hate her. I hate this character. She's such a wuss." And he goes, "Oh, really? That's interesting. So what would you rather do then? What would you rather play in this movie if you had a chance to be in the movie?" So I was like, wow. And I just started letting riff on an action scene. I did a whole kickboxing routine for the camera with going down in splits, flicking up, doing some kung fu punches, roundhouse kicks, mawashis, ended up in a vicious pose.
I have to watch it. What's it called again?
Mercy Me for Justice. It wasn't a high budget movie, as you can see when you watch it. and I die in the first 10 minutes, but goddamn, I got in that movie as a mercenary. Never say never, and never stop dreaming and believing, and never hold yourself back for being a free-thinking, free spirit, like individualist. If you want to go balls to the wall in an audition and do something completely different, you might just hear the words from the darkness behind the cameras. Okay, well, I think we don't have a female nemesis. I think we'll have to write a character in. How do you feel about playing that role for the movie? And I was like, yeah, don't call me, I'll call you. Thank you.
That's hilarious.
Left the place, like, feeling proud of myself for having done what I really wanted to do, but kicking my ass because I just lost the part that I probably got, you know, a guaranteed spot in the movie, but selling out there, being a comedic part. I do love comedy, but action, come on, baby. So I was just like kicking my ass and then laughing and chuckling and thinking, fuck, something just overtakes you when you're in the moment, when you're so present, just like what Eckhart Tolle describes, when you're so there. It's like something takes you over and you do what you were meant to do. It's like the universe. It's like you're just an instrument and the universe takes you over and does something and you're doing it and you can observe it. And you're so there and so present. It's like an orgasm. So anyway, 2 weeks later, obscure random phone call. Are you driving? Pull over. You got in the movie, you go to Cape Town. So that's how I got into that movie.
Wow, insane. And then you now, are you in Vegas doing some dancing? Again?
Yeah, I'm performing in a few shows, but I'm not going to mention them, obviously, just for privacy's sake.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And you're dancing and you still flying? You're doing your pilot's license out there?
Yeah, I'm doing my pilot license conversion. It's been a long process, you know, getting the status to actually stay in America. So I fought for it, and I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. And now things are starting to fall into place and happen as however you want it. You know, whatever you dream happens eventually. It's just whatever you focus on, your subconscious mind figures it out, and the next thing you're doing it. So I have said out loud that I don't want to fly for an airline ever again, and it's not coming from a place of fear or being jaded from what had happened. Honestly, I really probably asked the universe for such a thing to happen because deep down inside, flying in an airline wasn't ready for me. It was a lot of sitting, and I'm just too energetic for that. I need to move. I need to meet people and be out there and having fun. And it was great fun flying the plane. I cannot believe I was given such a beautiful opportunity after all that studying and all those years of paying my dues to finally crack the interview and be the one and only female to make it through. And I mean, like, ego aside, it was something beautiful. It was amazing, the journey and the ride to getting to an airline, and then ticking off on the list like things I really want to do. I made it into an airline. I had 27,000 pounds of horsepower jet engines, you know, on each wing, and flew 196 passengers in the back, took their souls from A to B, all day, every day. But yeah, after a while, just putting the autopilot in at 400 feet wasn't flying anymore.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to definitely finishing off my pilot license conversion, just for the love of it, and also because I struggled so hard to get it. It took me 8 years just to pay, just to afford to do my commercial hour building. You had to have 200 hours, and it was like 1,000 rand an hour. What's it, like $100 an hour? So it was very expensive, and I don't want to just let it fall by the wayside.
Jen, let's just go back a bit quickly, because this pilot thing, I mean, you, someone who's been all over the show, came out of school, did a few different things, didn't really know what you wanted, tried a few different things. Luckily, you had the kind of parents who were okay with you trying a few different things. They didn't say, okay, this is what you got to do and you got to make it work, like my parents did. Otherwise, you're out the family. So that's, you know, my parents are very strict. They were not like your parents at all. But yeah, basically, you've gone and you had very little direction, sort of, really, when you left school. Done a few different things. How was it that one day you decided to become a pilot?
I was actually born in Aldershot, which is a little Air Force Base in England, in London, and my dad was a paratrooper. I don't know how much he influenced me to become a pilot, but I do remember being a kid and being exhilarated when my dad would pick me up and make me do airplane. He'd be like, airplane, airplane, and we would come running. As soon as my dad walks in the door, we'd be like, daddy, 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 airplane, airplane, and he'd pick us up, one by one, 3 girls, all wanting to be flown around, and until he'd like bang our heads up against the ceiling a little bit, because he was a rough and tumble kind of guy, and he forgot that we were girls. But it wasn't violent. It was just a little tap, like, look, your head's on the ceiling, and we would laugh. Yeah, my dad's very playful.
Yeah, I remember your mom and dad very well when I was a kid. They're both lovely.
My dad, he's just such a playful guy. And my mom's such a lady. She's so lovely. She was like trying to keep us in check as girls,
And struggling. I remember your mom, Jenny, no, you with a little finger at you. And you were like, oh, Mom, please buy me cigarettes. And I couldn't believe you asked your mother at the age of 14 to buy you cigarettes. I was fucking mind blown.
Can I tell you now, that was actually a wonderful thing that she did. My mom said to us, to my sister and I, okay, come out of the closet. You girls are smoking. We can smell it. I know that you're experimenting with this shit. You said you didn't want to smoke because Dad smokes, and you didn't like the smell, and you didn't like how the smoke would go on your food and get in your system and your hair. And I know that you look up to your dad and you're daddy's girls, and eventually it was inevitable you were going to try this. And you're in high school, you're 12. I was 12 in standard 6, so that's grade 8. Everybody's trying it around you. Just come out of the closet. Just shine your colors. Just be who you are. You're smoking. Just smoke in front of me. So my sister and I innocently believed that it would be okay to smoke in front of my mother and my grandmother.
This is Caroline.
Yeah, she's called Sky.
Sky, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, just because my stepmom is Caroline, so she felt weirded out by it and chose it for name. Good for her. So we were like, oh, cool, really, Mom, really? Can we? You don't mind? We'll be all right. We won't be in trouble? Yes, you're doing it anyway. Rather just do it in front of me. So we did. At first, it kind of broke my mom's heart. I could see it in her eyes. She was really looking at us through those blue eyes and just heartbroken. My babies are destroying their lungs, the precious gift of health. They're just ruining it. And then my grandmother couldn't handle it and actually smacked it out of my mouth and said, no, in her Hungarian accent, no, I can't see this. And it took them a lot to breathe through it and really just accept who we are at that point, who we were, what we were doing. And just go, okay, I'm fine with this. It's your choice. No fear. I'm doing this from a place of love. And thank goodness they did that.
You're so blessed, Jenny. You're so blessed. Do you not remember my mom? We got drunk. What did my mom do? She took me out of the room and she beat the crap out of me whilst you were passed out and vomiting in my bed. My mom beat the crap out of me. She never accepted it. When she found out only when I was 16. Through someone else who'd seen me smoking. Do you know? She grounded me for fucking ever. And every time I went out, she'd make me come home and breathe on her and smell my breath. And if she even thought she suspected cigarettes, she'd like grab me by the arm and dig her nails in. Have you been smoking? Like this. No, Jesus, I wished I'd had what you had. That you are so blessed to have had your parents. I remember even when I was growing up, how much I loved being around at your house because of how tolerant and how unafraid you were of your family, which was something completely new to me. I grew up in utter fear of my parents.
Well, I didn't know that because I really loved you and your mom's relationship. I thought that was beautiful. I didn't know that she was so strict. I did hear the smacking of your face.
No, she was a very abusive woman. Unfortunately, I grew up in fear of being killed by her, Jen. I love my mom more than anything, and unfortunately, it was heartbreaking for me. And this only came to me a few years ago, to the point where I actually had to cut off my relationship with her because she's such a dark person. She's a very nasty, horrible person. And every time I let her back into my life, all she does is hurt me. Of course, I'm cutting all of this out the interview. I'm just explaining it to you. But, every time I let her back into my life, she hurts me. And what it is she's spiritually unevolved. And we all evolve at our own pace. But what it's a case of, She lives in a mental prison, okay? And I'm okay. I'm not trying to change that. I understand she lives in a mental prison. The problem she has is that I do not want to share her prison with her.
Yeah.
Okay? And she wants me to be like her because she thinks the way she is right. Yeah, and if I'm not, then I'm a disappointment and she's disinheriting me, which she has now, and all of this.
Once again, the ego, the little me, Eckhart Tolle describes is that if you, he quoted Ram Dass saying, if you think you're so enlightened, go and spend a week with your family. It's a challenge. It's one of probably the biggest challenges of our time on this planet, in this dimension, is trying to just be and allowing our family to be. It's so hard because we can see the mistakes they're making, they can see the mistakes we're making, and all we want to do is from a place of compassionate love, hopefully not from a place of fear and ownership, but a place of compassionate love. We want to reach out and help and help change, and all we can do is be the change we want to see, and literally just allow everything, and don't allow it to affect us. And like you said, just not allow ourselves to be imprisoned, but we can observe the ego in our loved ones, and we can observe their prisons, and when we can completely just allow it for them, just as they are in that moment, and just be present for them while they're being in their prison, that's like all we can do. And I tell myself this, and because I've had to do that with my mom, because my mom being such a lady, such an elegant lady, and always, she has a lot of fear about what people think of her and of me, and to the point where she wouldn't even let me speak. She would not even stand up for me because she was so ashamed that she wanted to protect me from everybody else's judgments, and she could see that people are looking disappointed or looking confused or disrespectfully at what I'm saying, because they're in their bubble or whatever their story is, that they're not taking it well or listening with an open heart. And my mom would read the signs on the people's body language and faces, and then try to protect me by shutting me down, shutting me up. Okay, Jen, we've heard it. We've heard enough. Okay, stop. And I'd have to stand up for myself and say, Mom, just be present. But you can talk to your mom and ask her to just be and just accept. But then that's not respecting where she's at right now with her fears, and just allowing her to be in her prison at that moment in time. That is where she's at. Just be there for her, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've had to tell myself that a lot. It's like, just back off, just keep quiet, and allow the presence, and just observe her, because she has her fears and her thoughts and her thing that she wants to say. So if it's not, and at the end of the day, everybody's like, never satisfied with what we've got unless we've transcended our own egos. It's like, I wish my mom or my parents had raised me like this or like that. I've seen all traveling around this world by backpack, all different families, different upbringings, and have seen some great ones, some not so great ones, some stuff where you thought was great and then you've lived with them for a week and it's totally different to what I thought. And so I guess just being there in the moment and observing is all we can do when we're around our family members.
Yeah.
Because we have so much love and compassion. We want to help them. We want to change them. But we can't.
This is it. And, I have accepted them for who they are, because I think in a way I'm more spiritually evolved than they are, having traveled and having done so much more and having lived, and explored, and searched beyond the bubble that is Shlanga Rocks. But what, unfortunately, they still live in that bubble of the fear of what everyone else thinks. And it's funny what you say. I had the same thing. I come home and I'm like, yes, Mom, the church is not good. Christianity's not good. It's bad. It controls you, this and that. And it's like, oh my God, please don't say this in front of my friends, shutting me down as well. When I started speaking, and then she started seeing people listening to me, it would be like, Mel, we've heard enough of the conspiracy stuff, we don't want to hear about the Illuminati anymore, kind of thing. And I'm like, Mom, people need to hear this stuff, actually. And you come to these dinner parties, you sit around, you all talk about the same fucking thing, your financial portfolio, which property you buy, and which horse you own, blah, blah, hana. Yes, and it's all very good and well, because as you know, my family were always wealthy, and I was raised with money, and I've I've had success in my own career, but I've also been to a place where I've lost all that. And it was the best thing. As you said, sometimes the worst things in life are the best things. It was only through losing everything that we actually learned that what the monetary system really is, because I had to explore, all right, what is this thing that has encaptured us, that has imprisoned us, that we now suddenly find ourselves struggling with? And then you look at how fraudulent the money system is and how we are enslaved by money and values and commercialism and all of that. And you begin the whole spiritual process. Now try and explain that to someone whose whole life is wrapped up in their external locus of identity, which is my beautiful palace, like people in Mshlanga.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the thing is that it will shine from within you. And that's what I found, is that even if I sit there quietly with this peaceful expression and really resonating so much peaceful energy, there really is something in it. When I quiet my mind and try to practice as best I can, what Eckhart Tolle has suggested that we do is just inner peace, no thought at that moment, just like totally present in the moment, and observing all of me around me, because you are me, I am you. My mom is me, I am her. And it's all just different forms and different stages of awakening, at different stages of unconsciousness, of consciousness, whatever it is. But this form that I am in, that this essence is in, is at a certain level, and I'm not even at a level, that Eckhart Tolle would be at, but yet Eckhart Tolle is me. So therefore, yes, I have reached that level. And yes, I am compassionate to the unconscious and to the conscious. And ego aside, if I could just sit there and be, somehow it resonates and it touches the right people at the right time. And I don't even have to speak. Sometimes just sitting there and being. And people want to get something out of you. They want to rise. They want to hear what's on your mind. Well, nothing. Nothing's on my mind. I'm just being. I'm just here. And but don't say that to them, because then they're like, oh, Miss High and Mighty on a spiritual quest. Oh, you think you're so much better than us. No, because that's not true, and there's no thought. In fact, I'm compassionately resonating how much we are one in that moment and how together we all are. So not saying that and not stating that, but just being, and then saying something quite normal, whatever that would be, and eventually resonating to the point that they or certain individuals that needed to align with the energy that I'm exuding at that point, or at the place that I'm at that point, just come forward and connect. And they needed it at that time, and suddenly they can feel their consciousness coming open, and it's just beautiful. So it's not very forceful. It's just but it's so powerful. It's just to be and be present, and then be the change you want to see. So that your powerful messages get relayed, and people that are ready, when they're ready, they will seek you out, and they will research your stuff and look into all those beautiful things, those beautiful pearls that you've shown to the world. It's not like the dinner party where in the Bible it says, don't cast your pearls before swine, because they'll be trampled in the dirt. And in other words, your beautiful things that you've discovered and wanted to share, and all these wonderful things, your gifts, that they are not appreciating it at that moment because they can't. Usually there's alcohol, there's a glass of wine, usually there's egos, usually there's fear. Just observing it is the most beautiful thing that a person can do, and it's not hard when we let go of our egos. When I let go of my ego, I was able to just sit and be. And that's when my mom and I could finally bond, which is amazing.
I did actually give my mom that Eckhart Tolle book for Christmas 4 years ago. She got 3 chapters in and she couldn't read anymore. It was too much for her. It was
and that's her. That's you in a different form, and that's where you are at in her form right now. But there is hope, and there, because you are her, and you have read it and got through it and reached such a beautiful opening, such a beautiful chakra opening on every level. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, unfortunately, things could change. Who knows? It only takes a tragedy to make one reassess their life, and tragedies happen all the way at time in South Africa. Who knows? It's things might get better between us, and I always say things are always open to change. Right now, Jen, unfortunately, I'm incommunicado with my family, and it's sad because I'm doing the best work of my life. This is when they should be proudest of me, but they're actually extremely ashamed of me.
And this is your moment to shine in your inner peace and your transcendence of your ego. This is where you will actually get closest to your family than ever before.
Well,
It's just going to happen. It just is. It just will be, and it is happening. You're so connected right now. It's beautiful. Even though if it's incommunicado, but because of your transcendence of ego and your place where you're at with your inner peace, it's going to touch them.
Yeah.
Through the universe, through the fabric of the illusion. It's going to touch them.
well, I'm hoping it does, because I really hope they start looking at some of the stuff I put out. With all due respect, I just worry about them, and I really would just hope that soon they'll start educating themselves more specifically with to do with their diets. I suppose we should get onto that. But my mom was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 2 years ago, and since then, I've been desperately exploring the whole diet dynamic because, of course, I've got her genes, and I'm prone to putting on weight, and that is just in our family bloodline. But I've now got myself to a place where I'm sort of doing the whole far more balanced lifestyle through educating myself and realizing that with everything we were taught at schools and that those institutions we went to, that you're taught, like, for example, the 5 food groups, and you look at this, the 4 out of the 5 food groups are like totally toxic for you.
I love you, Mel. I just absolutely love you. I love what you just said as well. It's just exactly right on. That whole system, it's exactly, this is where I have a small problem with Eckhart Tolle's teachings, okay? It's not my ego talking, and this is very controversial because I've written this on YouTube and people have commented with the most hateful comments, not understanding.
Tell me.
I love Eckhart Tolle. He is me, I am him. I love all the people that wrote all the hateful comments because that's where I'm at right now. It's a reflection of something in me, and that's fine. That is fine. The thing is, it's there's more to just being and just having peace, inner peace. We are trapped in a body, in a form. Whether we're a dog, a cat, or a human, we are trapped in a form. And we have a certain responsibility to that form. I know that it's temporary housing. I know that it's transient. It's just here today, gone tomorrow. We are specks of dust. We're made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. We're 70% water. We're a phenomenon, and we're just here and there and gone. In the blink of an eye, mankind is, if you scale mankind's existence out on a year's scale, we would be 1 second before midnight. That's how long we've even existed on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
1 second before midnight and a fart in space. I mean, really, we are humble. We are grateful to be here. We're just specks of dust, and we're nothing, really, and it's beautiful. And I totally agree with everything he teaches. I do feel, though, that we're hurting this planet and we're hurting ourselves. And as much inner peace as we can conjure up in our brains, if Eckhart Tolle is reaching for a cup of coffee or a hamburger after being so enlightened, and it's not to judge his enlightenment, but come on, really? Everything we do, every thought we have affects the universe, affects this planet. And this planet, we are given as a gift an opportunity to live here in this form, in this dimension, on this organic spaceship hurtling through the universe. How dare we hurt it? How dare we destroy it and rape it? We're complaining about the rapes and the cervix removal of a human being, of the Boers in Africa. What about this planet? I mean, this entire planet is just, there's nowhere for wild animals to live truly wild anymore. There's nothing sacred. The only sacred thing is the now, the present moment. But I disagree. Earth is sacred too. This planet is something that we have been given the responsibility, and I love what you said earlier about the fact that we need to take responsibility. That food chart, that food pyramid that we were brainwashed into believing in as children didn't tell us the truth. The fact that there is so much protein in fruit, that we don't need that much protein, that in fact too much protein causes a very huge drop in our pH from 7.3 pH, which is the perfect, slightly alkaline pH in a human's body, which prevents the growth of bacteria, molds, funguses, and viruses.
And cancer.
And cancer is just the result of a high animal protein, high protein diet in a highly acidic environment, which we've created by the consumption of too many amino acids, too rich a feeding session of amino acids constantly, daily. Morning eggs, too much amino acids, too concentrated. Afternoon chicken sandwich, too much amino acids, too concentrated. Evening steak, just too much amino acids, constantly bombarding our system. And we're not designed to even digest all that fiberlessness. It's got no vitamin C in it, so it does nothing for us. Yes, it's got protein. Yes, we need protein. How much protein? Well, they've estimated in studies done by the FDA, 2.5 grams a day is all we really, really need. They've said, okay, double that and make it 5 because, people are scared and there's fear-based that, we won't get enough. I've been living for 5 years now on nothing but fruits and vegetables. I've been raw. You actually inspired me to go raw, just like you actually inspired me to quit smoking, because you quit smoking before me when we were very young. The quitting of these animal products and going raw about 4 months ago, but quitting the animal products 5 years ago and living on nothing but fruit. People cannot believe how soft my skin is, and that's because I'm getting all that vitamin C. And vitamin C builds collagen by bonding with lysine and proline, which are 2 essential amino acids, which you get in fruit. The seeds inside the bananas, the little black dots that you find in the center of a banana, the seeds on the outside skin of a strawberry, seeds inside blueberries and black currants and mulberries, raspberries, all the berries, all those beautiful fruits give us just the perfect amount of amino acids, that 2.5 grams. Plus what people are fearful of is that, we must get all our amino acids in one meal. Now, amino acids are the little components that make up a protein chain, for the viewers or the listeners that are new to the jargon of biology. Just amino acids, they're chains of little amino acids make up a protein strand. But in fruit, you don't get these long-winded protein strands. And I say long-winded because beans are renowned for making us fat. And that is because they have long strands of carbohydrates, long strands of proteins. And when those strands break down, which is very difficult to break down in our systems, they cause a lot of gas. With meat and dairy, the protein strands are also very long and they're long-winded. That's why you get bloating and water retention when consuming, especially dairy, but also all flesh, rotten flesh, corpses of animals. Steak and chicken wings, not corpses. And it's just we don't need all the essential amino acids in one meal, in one bite. Our liver is an amazing thing, and Mother Nature just got it perfect. Our liver actually takes in all the amino acids throughout the day in a pool, and it holds onto them until the evening, or whenever you're programmed to sleep. If you're doing night shift, it'll be whenever you fall asleep. When you fall asleep, the liver then processes the pool of amino acids that it's captured during the day. So if a banana is lacking in a certain amino acid, but you can get it in a persimmon or an apple, the liver will take all those amino acids and hold on to them and pull them and then use them later that day or that night. And you will not be deficient. I'm living proof that there is no deficiency or protein deficiency. There's never been a reported protein deficiency disease ever in mankind. Kwashiorkor is a calorie deficiency. and that causes a big bloated belly. You've seen pictures of children.
Yeah,
in
it's called
Africa
belly
where
belly.
it's,
Yeah,
What's that?
belly. It's another word for it, where they get the big bloated belly. Yeah.
Exactly, belly and kwashiorkor. It's a caloric deficiency, not a protein deficiency. So you can't be protein deficient if you're living on fruits and if you have some vegetables as well, and especially if they're raw. Our body lives on an enzyme lock and key mechanism. That is one thing they did get right at school. They did teach us about the enzymes. They taught us, imagine you've got a lock in your body, and that's the enzyme, and then the food comes in, and that's the key. The key comes into the lock and unlocks the door and goes into your tissues. That's how protein and vitamins, minerals, the whole works gets absorbed into the body. That's why taking vitamins is madness, because it's just distorted, ground down powders and things that just can't get absorbed. They just get peed out, and you get very expensive, very concentrated, yellow, funny smelling pee, is because it was processed and there was nothing left to the vitamins, minerals and goodies inside what they're trying to put into our bodies. The same happens when we cook food. Any form of processing of food, as soon as you've cooked it, and that's what they didn't teach us at school. They didn't teach us the therefore. So I listened to 80-10-10 audiobook by Dr. Douglas Graham, and that just complements perfectly your spiritual enlightenment courses, your practice. If you listen to Eckhart Tolle, please also listen to, for your listeners, please also listen to Dr. Douglas Graham's 80-10-10, or read it. He explains the therefore that they didn't teach us at school, which is, if you cook a protein or a carbohydrate, we get taught at school that it denatures. Yes. And that's where it ends. But therefore, that denatured protein or carbohydrate comes into our body and cannot get into the lock. It's a distorted key. It's almost like it's been melted down, out of shape, warped. It doesn't fit the lock anymore, and it doesn't get absorbed. So therefore, raw food is the only real way to go. Yes, I know, there's a lot of emotional attachment to certain cooked foods, the aroma, that beautiful thing that makes our appetite soar and gets our mouths wet. It's like foreplay. It's a beautiful thing when you can smell the scents of the curries and the spices. And the olfactory, experience is beautiful. But I remember very, very well smelling the most divine curries, but then eating it, and all it is it's not as good as the scent. The smell, you want to capture that on your tongue, but you're left wanting more. At the end of the curry, you're left wanting a lassie, or, like something sweet to drink, something refreshing now, because and then the next morning you wake up and there's bags under the eyes or dark circles because it was too concentrated spice, too much of a good thing. And I love curry. I still make raw curry. You can still have your spice. It's not to say that you ever need to go without. You can dehydrate things. You can mix things and add in chili. You don't have to cook chili. A beautiful, freshly picked chili straight off the vine, mixed up with avocado, bananas, and dates, and all those sweet flavors with the spice, just hits the spot every time. It is aromatic. If you smell that chili, you get your nose in that chili. It's beautiful, whets the appetite. It's not as pungent as a cooked curry house. When you walk in, you smell that, and you know your shit's going to smell like that tomorrow.
For sure. You're going on at such a pace at the moment. Let me just stop you before we carry on and say that I know people give you a hard time about the respecting the body bit, but I absolutely have to agree with you on that one, because, and I know people will probably say the same about the Eckhart Tolle, they give you a hard time about that. But I also have to agree with the Eckhart Tolle that I don't agree with necessarily everything Eckhart says. I agree with a lot of his spiritual lessons, but he doesn't address everything. We still live in a three-dimensional reality where we have a body that we have to carry around with us. And you know what? I don't want to spend any time in this body in a hospital treating cancer. Thank you.
Exactly. And how, and the madness, that he describes, the insanity of our thoughts, the incessant thoughts. Yes, I agree. There's a place for thoughts. There's a time for thoughts when appropriate. We need to observe our thoughts and not let them rule us.
Yes.
And we need to guide our thoughts and filter out what's bullshit and filter what's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that he hasn't addressed, is what what kind of thoughts, how do you filter your thoughts and make your thoughts work for you instead of against you? Yes, he teaches us to separate ourselves from our thoughts. Good. Now, how do we clean up our thoughts to sanity, sane thoughts that we don't allow to continuously chatterbox? We meditate and we quiet the mind, yes. But when we do think, what should those thoughts be mostly about?
I tell you, I know, let me answer that one for you, Jenna, why he doesn't go there. Because then you have to get into the whole paradigm of truth, okay, which is where I go. It's not a small thing. It's not one book. It's not many books. It's a lifetime of research, okay?
Yes.
And that is where your thoughts, that is where you will never get confused. You stand in the light of truth. You'll always walk the straight line. You don't have to worry about backtracking yourself and thinking. If you're always walking and you're trying to focus, and ultimately your fundamental orientation is truth, then you process your thoughts the right way. Because there is no right and wrong. There's only things we learn from.
Yes.
So.
And I mean, like, to slaughter these millions of animals
Yes.
every day, you know.
How's that a good thought process?
Exactly. And somebody said to me the other day, who was adamant that they will continue to have their burgers and their steaks, that if we don't, this is what they said, not me. But this is obviously, it's me in a different form, and this is something that I need to look at within myself. Then, if this is somebody's belief, and therefore my belief somewhere out there, is that if we stop the industry of meat eating, those animals are going to be extinct because nobody will look after them anymore, because nobody will breed them, because there's no purpose for them. And so therefore, by eating meat, they are protecting the animals. This is what somebody said.
Those animals existed before, you know.
They said that if we don't eat animals, they're going to go extinct.
That's rubbish. They'll use any excuse to justify their madness. Do you know, that is the biggest bullshit.
How sick is this world, though? Because there is some truth in that, is that if we don't see any reason for an animal, we'll just kill it. How sick is our society? If we didn't think, oh wow, lions are beautiful, we would kill them off. If we didn't think, gazelles and buck are just a waste of time, they eat the grass, we don't really need them, but we need them because lions eat them, and lions are beautiful, therefore we must keep the buck so that the ecosystem can survive. Oh, okay, then we won't kill the buck. We won't kill them all off. We'll keep enough for the lions because we want to see lions, because we like to see them.
Yeah.
It's become crazy.
It is madness. It is madness. And I've recently seen pictures of families who've been on a safari shooting in Africa, American families with their two young little kids standing next to the slain giraffe that they've just shot. It's big smiles with a big fat gun, you know, standing there like bloody heroes. And it's the culture of believing that we have the right to kill off other sentient beings because we believe they're on a lower part of the food chain to us. I mean, that is the same hierarchical bullshit that controls our planet today on a human level.
My heart absolutely breaks, and I have to hold the pieces together and ask Mother Nature to forgive us. And I have to forgive myself, because I am all of these people that are doing those things. If I am the same, one and the same, in a different form. And so I've got to seek inside myself where the bad energy is, where this terrible, disgraceful part is in myself that I can heal and forgive. Because our energy does affect everything. And this is it gets deeper. But I can't point fingers, and that's the sick thing, is that this form here, right here now, is not choosing to eat a hamburger, is choosing to keep those animals alive without the need for vanity of, oh, I'm so cool, I looked at a lion, I played with a lion, I've got a photo with a lion, it's on Facebook, there's proof that I'm cool, you know. It's so much further than that, it's so much deeper than that. And this is what I am doing in different forms, is not protecting the animals for being a dignified protector of this earth, or even just a humble protector of this earth, but just out of sheer vanity. Look, children, we killed a giraffe, how cool are we? They couldn't kill that giraffe with their bare hands and their pathetic excuse for canines,
For sure.
which are actually just called canines because they come to a point, but they're not round-socketed. They don't fit into our jaw with a round socket. They're flat teeth just to show a slight bit of aggression, to say this is my food, or don't attack me, I'll defend myself. That's all those canines were there for. Those canines, we don't have each and every tooth as a canine. We've got flat teeth for biting off soft things like fruit, not digging into the hide of that giraffe. And how proud can they be when they've tricked the system and they've shot the giraffe down? I mean, wasn't natural. If they could kill that giraffe with their bare hands, their bare claws, which we don't have. We've got soft nails that break. Oh, I broke a nail. The retractable claws, if we have that killer instinct, if we thirst for blood and raw flesh and could chew through the neck of the jugular vein of that giraffe, bring it down and then eat it raw and not die from the parasites that we'd ingest from the flesh and the guts and the brain and the eyeballs of that giraffe, and live off that giraffe, and not get all acidic and develop cancer and tumors and sickness. If they could do that, then they can have that giraffe. Then they were meant to eat that giraffe or to kill that giraffe, because then they're a carnivore, and that's what they're meant to do as a life cycle, the circle of life. But until we don't have these soft nails, these delicate teeth, and these weak stomach acids that can only really harvest the amino acids that come from fruits, which school didn't teach us fruit had any protein in, which that needs to change. Then we don't have a right to just get out a gun and shoot and kill and murder. And
Can I ask you something, Jane? Just on that note, can I just ask you something here? Talking about blood and murder and all of that with regards to eating meat, I've been working on a theory. I believe that if you could get people in the army to become vegetarian, you could not get them to kill.
You know, I mean,
meat does feed our bloodthirst. I believe that.
Yes, that's true. I mean, there is a level of testosterone in men that they want to fight. They want action. Men are a different breed to women. And looking at it from a woman's point of view, we don't need to fight. We can be compliant. We can love each other. But in men, there is this animalistic need or drive. And that's the beauty of Eckhart Tolle, is that he is trying to let us know that we are more than that. We are more than the animal we're trapped inside, this testosterone-filled being, that we can transcend the urges of the animal. I mean, sex is a wonderful thing, but we've transcended the urge to just go around raping, and most of us have transcended the urge. Maybe it's been that our wings have been clipped. Maybe society has punished us severely enough that we can't just go around raping. But the point is that something works, and we have transcended the animal instinct to rape. Most of us have.
Yeah.
Even though we may fantasize about being raped, I know I've spoken to lots of sexy ladies that are just like, oh, I would love to just surrender and just have this.
Yeah, I've heard it. So I have a friend who wants to be beaten up and raped.
It's all good, you know. It's fantasy, and if we have the safety and security and the good health of the people around us, the mental health and physical health, that we can go and fulfill our fantasies with those people, good for us. That's beautiful. It's amazing. But, you know, like as a society as a whole, we get given permission to go and kill other human beings. That's just ridiculous. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And, if we can just transcend and maybe becoming vegan or vegetarian and getting over the addiction of eating flesh, maybe the very trigger we do need, and it's beautifully put that you said that, maybe just the trigger we need to overcoming this animal instinct, to, especially in men, to obey the testosterone to the point where we can just justify just going out and slaughtering other human beings and animals, murdering. And I liken killing another human being to killing an animal. I mean, people get horrified at the thought of killing a dog, but they don't care about killing a cow.
Yeah. And
Yes,
cows
they
are
are.
beautiful
Both.
creatures, eh? Have you ever looked a cow in the face and looked at those beautiful big eyes and those long lashes? Aren't they such gorgeous creatures?
Yes, there's a being in there. There's a life force in there, and we are not carnivores. We don't have the killer instinct. We do look at them and see something human in them.
Absolutely.
We see something familiar in them.
Let me tell you something, Jenna. A real little cute cow story, which is when I realized that there were living beings inside of there. The aha moment for me was I was driving along, okay, and I pulled over by a petrol station because I was so exhausted. I just thought I'll close my eyes, power nap for 15 minutes. And I opened the door. It was a hot summer's day. I was still living in London. I opened the door and I put my feet up by the window and I just kind of put my chair back and I relaxed for 15 minutes. Massive headache. Next thing I heard like a little bell in the back of my mind. I became conscious of the sound of a bell and I opened my eyes and there were 5 cows lined up along the side of the road. And I realized I'd parked up along the side of a farm. Okay, a massive farm of flat land, and I hadn't seen these cows there before, but they'd seen me parked there, and they'd all come over, and one of them had even had the token sort of piece of grass coming out of its mouth, and they're all chewing, but they were all looking at me. They had all come over out of curiosity to see what it was that had parked up by the side of their farm. And they're all just staring at me, and I looked at these cows, and they all had this curious look on their face. And in fact, some of them actually looked like they were bored. Because imagine just having to walk around this closed-in piece of land. Oh, look, there's something exciting at the other end of the farm. Let's go check it out. That is the impression I got. That is what I was reading off them at the time. And this is when I realized that these things, the curious creatures, they're not just aimless animals that don't even notice that I'm parked there. All 5 bloody cows came there to check me out.
Yes, they're conscious beings.
Yes.
Probably more conscious than a lot of human beings.
I have to agree with that. Absolutely. But Jen,
they saw you and they felt you and they saw you. They wanted to be where you were.
Well, I think they were curious more than anything. You know, because I looked at this piece of land that they had. There was nothing. It was all just gated around either side, flat. That's all they have is this flat piece of grass. No hills and valleys, and there's no. It must be so indifferent for them. They must be so bored. And I believe animals feel boredom. I see it in my own pet, my cat. I see her when she gets bored, frustrated because it's snowing outside and she can't go play.
Yes.
You know, so I know that they feel those emotions. If a cat can feel it, definitely a cow can feel it.
Yes, and it would be quite a trick to teach or try to help a cow reach enlightenment of just being, and that being is enough.
But Jen, I want to talk also about the effects of meat on the body. You know, you obviously went through the whole process of detoxing from meat. When I talk a little bit about how you discovered and the process you went through.
Do you want me to kind of repeat what I had told you last time about what the breaking point was for me?
Yeah, just go through. I didn't get the last one up because the recording wasn't so clear.
Okay. Once upon a time, about 5 years ago, I was an avid meat eater. I used to drive around game reserves and say to people around me, "Oh, I want some kudu biltong. Look at that kudu. Oh, it looks amazing." I didn't have a killer instinct to go kill the kudu, but I was lusting after the salty piece of dry biltong, which for the people in America is, what's it called in America?
Jerky.
Jerky, beef jerky, kudu jerky. Kudu is a type of buck. I was having what I thought was healthy meat and vegetables every day. I'd have chicken, lean meat, lean cuts, and I thought I was doing it all right. But I noticed 2 things, which proved to me that I was doing something wrong. And they were, number 1, I was continuously, yearly, catching colds and flus, which is not normal. I thought at the time that it was normal, but having not had a cold or flu ever since I've given up meat and dairy, it proved to me that catching colds and flu is not normal, and in fact we don't catch colds and flus. Things go around all the time. We're inhaling and swallowing and ingesting bugs all the time, viral bugs, funguses, molds, and bacteria. It's the environment inside our bodies that we create that either allow those bacteria and viruses to breed and take us over and make us feel ill, or not. And that is an acidic environment, which is brought about by eating meat and dairy, which causes bacteria and viruses to thrive and make us have fevers and lay down and get sick or feel the symptoms of an overwrought bacterial infection, or keeping our environment inside at a 7.3 pH, which is slightly alkaline, which is only achievable by eating fruits and vegetables. In other words, a high-carb, raw diet. That is the best way to keep the body alkaline. So yes, I was experiencing pain and agony in laryngitis and having to take antibiotics, stripping my probiotics even more, and that was 5 years ago. And I was having my meat and vegetables, and the second thing was that I constantly felt the need to go and train. I felt the need to burn calories, which has disappeared from me entirely. I hardly exercise anymore. I only play. That's what I call it now. I go and play. I go and pump my lymph, which is just keeping the circulation going, and that is the only objective in going to any gyms or going for a run, and also for getting that nice endorphin rush, that natural high that's totally free, that, okay, you pay for it with a few paces of jogging, getting your heart rate elevated for a few moments. It feels wonderful. Why not do it? But the point wasn't anymore to go out there and burn calories or chase the dragon, as I was putting it. When I used to eat meat, I would constantly feel like I was getting fat, and if I didn't train, I was going to get fatter and fatter. There's a very logical explanation for that, and that is the liver. Our liver is the only organ in the body that digests fats. It's not the stomach, it's not the kidneys, it is the liver only that digests fats. What happens when we eat meat, including all lean cuts of fish, all lean cuts of poultry, and including low-fat milks and things, all those low-fat yogurts, all of that is the cholesterol. Our bodies produce the perfect amount of cholesterol to keep our skin and our arteries flexible. Fats aren't good for us if they are not cholesterol-based or trans fats. So that means that we don't actually need to ingest them. Our body makes the perfect amount. Every time we eat a piece of animal, we are putting in more cholesterol than our body needs or can handle. It goes to the liver, and it gets stuck in there. It literally sits there, and it builds on top of itself with bile, and over time you get liver and gallstones. If you've got allergies, you will probably have a blocked gallbladder. You don't need surgery to get rid of those gallbladder stones or liver stones. You do need to stop eating animal products immediately, which stops the madness, stops the ingestion of cholesterol, and therefore stops more stones and bigger stones from compacting on themselves and growing and eventually blocking the liver. If somebody is retaining fat on their fat cells, wherever they're stored, whether on the belly or the thighs or wherever you store fat, wherever I store fat, it's a symptom of a blocked liver. It's the liver crying out and saying, stop eating cholesterol and please get these stones out of me so that I can actually bring that fat from, send an enzyme or a hormone that activates the fat cells to start sending and pumping the fat back through the lymph system and back to me so I can digest it. That is what the liver is begging for when we are retaining fat. Very simple. In order to do a liver cleanse, you've got to do a parasite cleanse first. But here's what the liver cleanse entails, and it's this easy. You get Epsom salts mixed in water, and you drink 4 glasses of Epsom salts. Epsom salts is just magnesium. It's harvested from a well in Epsom in England. It's a beautiful form of magnesium that our body can understand and recognize. And it helps the liver to relax and open up slightly. It doesn't hurt, you don't feel it, it's just natural. Then you drink, and this is the gross part, a cup of olive oil mixed into a glass of grapefruit juice. Grapefruit is already bitter enough. Add olive oil, which is horrible to drink, and you've got a magic potion, which lubricates the bile ducts inside the liver and also forces the gallbladder to squirt out a powerful amount of bile and outpours the stones as well. It squirts the stones out. You don't feel it. You may feel a slight rumbling in your tummy as if you're slightly hungry or something, but you don't feel hungry. It's just rumbling. The stones are coming out of your liver and out of the gallbladder, and you literally just pass them out as a stool. The whole of the next day, you're just passing clear water and stones. and those stones float in the loo, in the toilet. They float because fat floats, and that's what they are. The stones are squishy. You can break them open, and you'll see layer upon layer of green, bilious, infused fat, pure cholesterol. And you might need to do many of these liver flushes, liver cleanses. I recommend, I can't recommend because I'm not a doctor, but I'd suggest, based on my experience, that you do one every month until you see no more stones. And then you'll know that your liver is free at last. Oh my God, free at last. And that's when you can start, going to gym, thinking about pumping your lymph system. So now you want to start just gentle exercise just to get the blood flow going, and go for massages. Lomi, it's a Hawaiian massage. It's deep tissue. It gets right in there, and they'll massage up your thighs and your calves and get all that cellulite and dead toxins and all the fat cells to just stimulate and motivate the fat to start moving up through the lymph system, which is probably blocked and stodged up by now, if the liver was blocked with stones. You just want to activate the fat and toxin removal system, which is Mother Nature got it right. The lymph system is there, and just stimulate the lymph glands, and the fat processes up. It moves up to the liver, and the liver just digests it, and voila. And some of that fat could also be hard fats. So you probably keep on doing liver cleanses, like I said, until you see no more stones during the massages, and give your liver a break. Do it maybe once a month, so that your liver can just chill out a bit after it's squirted all those stones out. And before you do a liver cleanse, do a parasite cleanse, because if you are harvesting any parasites like worms and flatworms and tapeworms and pinworms and ascaris, which we all have in us, and it's a constant maintenance plan to kill those worms off by maintaining a parasite cleanse program, just once a week or once a month, or whenever you've been coughed and sneezed on or traveled in an airplane. It's basically 3 herbs, or herbs as American calls it. The 3 herbs are wormwood, cloves, and black walnut hull extract. And they basically will go in and kill off parasites so that they don't go into your liver and make a nest in there while you're doing the cleanse. I have to drink some water, Mel.
Yeah, take a breather. You've done so well.
Like that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm back. Just have to go get some water and cough up a lot.
Gee whiz, you're still the same, man. You used to run and keep going, man. You still bloody keep going.
Yeah, there's so much to discuss. So yeah.
Yeah, well, you're on black walnut hull extract, cleaning the liver, parasites, ended there. So wherever you're ready to pick it up from.
Yeah, so basically, about 5 years ago, I had the worst pain of my experience of colds and flu. I had a really, really hectic laryngitis. It was so painful to swallow that I couldn't even eat. I was in so much agony, and I had just had laryngitis, not only a few weeks or months before that. And I had taken antibiotics, and I was trying so hard to build up my probiotics again by taking Interflora. And now I was like, oh, you're kidding me. Now I have to take more antibiotics. This was before I found out about intravenous hydrogen peroxide therapy, which oxygenates the blood. And it's like taking a Band-Aid off a wound to let it breathe. Oxygen goes in and kills the bacteria. So had I known about hydrogen peroxide intravenous therapy and also vitamin C...
Sorry. Hydrogen peroxide, as in the stuff that you bleach your hair with?
Well, hydrogen peroxide, when you bleach your hair, if you put it onto your scalp, you'll feel a burning sensation.
Yeah,
And,
no, I know what it is, and they used this to cleanse the River Thames when it became infested with sewage. They pumped it with hydrogen peroxide, but putting it intravenously, because hydrogen peroxide reacts to protein, it bubbles. I'm trying to imagine it.
Yes, it's a controversial and integrative new form of health. It's less mad than antibiotics, and here's why. I'm glad that they did help the River Thames with it. It's beautiful. Hydrogen peroxide naturally occurs in our bodies. Vitamin C actually makes hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
It's basically one hydrogen molecule and a few oxygen molecules attached. And what happens is it breaks down into water and oxygen. That's all it does. That tingling and burning feeling on the scalp when one is bleaching one's hair is the oxygen being released in the process. Oxygen cleans wounds. Oxygen kills bacteria. Oxygen... Exactly right. The British government did a good thing. I'm very impressed to hear. I didn't know that they'd resorted to hydrogen peroxide, because all it is, it breaks down into water and oxygen, and oxygen is the healing factor here. Okay. Just like your wound needs to breathe, so too do our insides need to breathe. And when we're infested with something and we're in so much pain and agony, instead of using antibiotics, I would say rather seek out an integrative medical doctor, and they are curing people of cancer right now by using hydrogen peroxide therapy intravenous, so that the reason why they put it straight into your vein is so that it doesn't have to digest first and go through a long process. It's pure. It just goes straight in, breaks down into the oxygen, and you get cleaned. Your blood gets cleaned. Also, they're using intravenous vitamin C and nutrition therapy to cure people of cancer. Basically, oxygen and vitamin C helps to raise your body's pH. It activates your immune system. It activates the white blood cells. And that's what that is all about. Also, things like colloidal silver and sulfur and all different they're not natural. I mean, it's not, you don't exactly go and get some silver and go lick or suck on something silver all day. You know, it's not like an instinct to go and get something like this. Something like this is like if you're really ill and you need help. You don't have to resort to antibiotics, which basically nuclear bombs your entire immune system. It takes it out. It ruins the balance of interflora. And the next time you have laryngitis or a cold and flu, it'll hit you even harder. You got to take even stronger antibiotics, and eventually it's just a losing battle. So if you do need help, if a person is at death's door or is in so much pain and agony that they need some help urgently, then I have had experience with, and therefore recommend on my experience alone, the therapies, the hydrogen peroxide and the intravenous vitamin C. So when I got the laryngitis, I was in so much pain and agony, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I couldn't figure it out because I am a logical-minded person, and I couldn't understand how living on my standard American diet of some meat and some vegetables every day, low carbs, high protein, how this was making me ill. And I realized that was making me ill, that was the only factor. I wasn't doing anything different. I was, also under the impression that if you walk into a cold, air-conditioned room from the heat, that would bring on sickness. All these insane thoughts that don't make any logical sense. I mean, yes, it's an unnatural environment to suddenly walk into an air-conditioned room, but isn't your immune system strong enough and smart enough to figure things out and
to deal with little temperature change? Yeah.
We adapt. I mean, are we so pathetic? Did Mother Nature make us so puny and pathetically that we have to put up with pain and agony every single year in these colds and flus? Oh, I went on an airplane and they sneezed and now I'm sick. Those darn airplane flights, or recirculation of disgusting air, or this or that. Whatever the excuses are, they're just bullshit. The only way that we can activate our immune system and keep our immune system healthy and strong to be able to handle everything, because Mother Nature is a goddess. She got us right. We are designed amazingly.
the only way that we can do that is if we keep a balanced 7.3 slightly alkaline pH in our bodies. So I wrote down on a piece of paper in my agony of laryngitis, which I couldn't even talk through, I wrote down, fuck this, let's go vegan. And I showed it to a friend of mine that was with me at the time, who had told me prior to that he'd never felt as healthy as he had done when he had lived on fruits and vegetables a few years before. And I told him, oh no, we're going to get weak. The first thing is fear creeps in. We're going to be deficient in protein, iron, calcium, minerals. We're going to be weak like bucks and like zebras. We're not going to be strong like lions. We're carnivores. This is all the conditioning. Decades of conditioning. I was 31 at the time. And this person had said that to me, and I'd said, I'd been living in England studying for my nutrition diploma once, and I had tried to be a vegetarian based on the nutritional diploma, making sense about that. And I had become weak and sickly by the end of that year. And I went to the doctor and said, should I start eating meat again? And he'd said, well, it sounds like a good idea if that's the thing you'd eliminated and now you're weak. And so I'd eaten meat and felt immediately better. That's exactly what I had said. And my friend had said to me, that same friend, well, what did you eat? And I'd said, lentils and rice, beans and rice. I tried to combine so that I could get the full protein, the full amino acid in every meal, so I wouldn't be protein deficient. And he laughed and said, well, no wonder you got sick and weak by the end of the year. Where was the vitamin C, which keeps your immune system healthy and keeps your pH 7.3? Where were the fruits and the vegetables? You were over-acidifying with beans and rice. You might as well have just carried on eating steaks, except that you were getting less of the B vitamins from the beans and rice. So no vitamin C was the cause of my weakness. And I had said to him, I'm not sure. But when I got that illness again and was in that much pain and agony, and isn't it sad and ironic and very hypocritical how we allow ourselves to be at death's door before we go, let me try something new. Like Einstein said, the highest form of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect different results. And I had been doing the same thing over and over, eating my meat and veg every day and having dairy, yogurt, and cheese and all that, and just continuously being in agony, pain, and sickness. And I wasn't changing. And that was when I was like, fuck it. We're going vegan. That's it. I'm going vegan. I went cold turkey, so to speak, immediately. And I do recommend in my experience that you do that, but you need to be prepared. Preparation is the key to success in everything in life. And so preparation on going cold turkey vegan is make sure you get to the grocery store and stock up. Don't starve. Don't go hungry. I couldn't get enough calories suddenly because I was so used to this high caloric meal of the meat with the fat in it, even lean cuts, but it was high calorie meals every time. And all of a sudden I was just like, I don't know what to eat now. I had to re-instinctify my instincts. And these days it's as natural as breathing. And within a week it was and became as natural as breathing, is that just go and buy bunches of bananas and eat them like you're hungry. And get yourself dates. Get all the sweet fruits and the citrus fruits that you can fathom. Anything and everything goes. Watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydew melons. My mouth is watering as I mention these beautiful God-given fruits. Mother Nature got it right. She's beautiful. And vegetables are not necessarily the thing that are going to give you a lot of calories. They do strip you of calories, especially if it's celery and things that are hard to digest, high in cellulose. I realized later on that I was forcing myself to have certain vegetables which I don't think are necessarily good for us, like wheatgrass. If you can't chew it and get it down, and if it doesn't taste nice, don't force it down in a shot glass. Go and live, and really live. Go seek out, what does your mouth lust for? What is your body and brain telling you want once you've retrained it and re-instinctified the instinct? Because we've lost touch with our instinct to lust after the colorful, beautiful brightness and sense of all the fruits and berries that are out there. We've trained our brains to think of cake or fudge or a Snickers bar or a Kit Kat And my mouth isn't even watering while I'm saying this, because they're inanimate objects for me now. They're just poisons. They're like a piece of plastic that we've doctored up with sugar and pushed down into our systems to stodge it up, and drop our pH and just cause a lot of illness and suffering. So re-instinctify your instinct. Get back in touch with Mother Nature, and you will find your brain flashing at you. Blueberries, raspberries, red and blues and oranges and purples, all those colors, those antioxidants, those hydrating, fiberful, vitamin C rich, gorgeous, luscious fruits.
Yes, indeed.
So that's what happened. At one stage I was like, I need calories and I don't know what to do in the very first week. And my brain flashed at me spinach. So I told my friend, and he was laughing at me and saying I was ridiculous. I was like, come on, get a grip of your own body now. And I was just like, screw you, I've got to go get some greens right now. Good. Go with your instinct. It's your instinct. Your brain tells you what it needs as soon as you clear out the clutter. And so I went and got myself 2 boxes of baby organic spinach leaves. I put them in a massive bowl, rinsed them off, squirted some lemon juice over them. At that stage, I was eating honey and agave, so I sweetened them up. But these days, I would just chop up a banana, a whole lot of bananas and dates, and some chili and avo, and mix those into the spinach leaves, and just wolf them down. I mean, I sat there like a caterpillar, and I just chewed and chewed and chewed. It took me an hour to eat that huge bowl. It was just like all that green chlorophyll. My body just sang praises and thanks to Mother Nature as the green chlorophyll just hit the bloodstream, and it just wanted all that roughage. Then began a long journey. Your question was all the cleanses and things. It began a long journey and process. 31 years of animal product consumption needed to be detoxed. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's not pretty. I went for colonic irrigation, and thanks to the vegan diet that I've been on for the month before I went for colonic irrigation, it had helped to soften all the black crust of rotten corpses and cheese that had been stuck in the corners of my colon, and all the meat and dairy products that I've been consuming for 31 years that had got stuck fabulously inside my convoluted colon, which really needed a good cleaning out. I went for 5 days of consecutive 1-hour treatments, 5 consecutive days of 1-hour treatments of colonic irrigation. The lady stuck a small pipe a little bit up my butt and turned on the water. Warm water went up my colon. I could only allow it to go up a little way and the first few times, and asked her to stop, and told her that was good enough. But by day 2, I could allow the warm water to wash all the way through, up the descending transverse and ascending colon, all the way to as far as my appendix. I could feel the warm water pressing gentle pressure onto the colon. She was professional. She knew what she was doing. And then when she turned off that pressure and allowed the release, black stuff came out of my colon on day 2. She'd said, that's wonderful. That's the stuff we need to get out. That only happens on day 5 for most people. It must be your diet. So I highly recommend getting on a high-fiber diet of fruits and vegetables as soon as possible, and then going for colonic irrigation. And you'll be shocked and horrified at the bugs and stuff that come out. Not just the black crust of rotten stuff that's been infecting you from the inside, bacterially, all these decades, and probably will end up being the cause of your death in the future if you don't get hit by a bus. But it's definitely the cause of all the pain and agony and the sore throats and the laryngitis. That stuff gets washed clean, as well as mucus. From all the dairy that you've ever consumed, that mucus thickens. And in the mucus, guess what's living in there? Little white spider-like bugs called Candida. Candida basically starves you. It eats all your sugars, so you don't get any calories from the fruit that you're eating. So you got to get that stuff out. And it shits alcohol, so you feel woozy and not completely compos mentis after eating sugary things. That shouldn't be the case. And when it gets over-riddled by taking antibiotics, which kills the probiotics, which are the bugs that kill the candida, then you get systemic candida, which goes into your bloodstream and into your brain and just everywhere. You can also have it in your vagina, which causes thrush and all kinds of terrible pain and agony. You really want to wash that stuff out, and it comes out, and you see these little white spiders just that have been sucking onto your mucous membrane of your colon and living off you, hosting off you. It's atrocious, and this is what the food pyramid at school that was brainwashed into us has caused. So stop the madness and just wash that shit out. And then start your parasite cleanse, your mouth cleanse. Try and get all the mercury out of your mouth and change those fillings for something benign. A bowel cleanse, kidney cleanse, which you can look up online for recipes on. It's just uber ursi, hydrangea root, and marshmallow root boiled into a tea, which you sip during the day, which you sweeten with vegetable glycerin, which also helps to remove the stones. If you have any kidney stones, the core of which is always a parasite egg, and then parsley water, which is mixed in with the tea, which will kill that egg or eliminate the egg as well. So you're getting rid of the symptoms and the cause at the same time. And then after kidney cleanses, go for that liver cleanses, and just detox each and every organ, which is the center of your universe. Once that has happened, you are continuing on your vegan diet, no longer convinced of mad thoughts that you need to be eating any kind of animal protein, because you will see the byproduct or the effect on your organs of the diet that you have consumed, and you will not want to go back to that madness.
Yeah. Absolutely, Jen. And I felt the difference when we changed over to a raw diet. And you mentioned parsley. Do you know, I started putting parsley into my smoothies, and I started noticing parasites coming out because parsley just killed them off.
Right on.
Yeah.
And parsley is so amazing. Parsley has the highest concentration of calcium and iron out of all the herbs.
Wow.
So you're getting calcium and iron in an enzyme understandable form, so lock and key mechanism perfection.
Yeah.
It was getting absorbed into your system at the same time as an antibacterial, which just eliminates those parasites. So awesome thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more little tips?
Be good to yourself, forgive yourself, love yourself. Just be.
All important.
And see yourself and others. See everyone as you, and then inner peace is so achievable and attainable. And mix the inner peace with outer peace. Heal this planet by taking responsibility, as Mel, as you've said, taking responsibility for everything we do, and get some healthy thoughts. Get some detoxing going and start healing yourself as well as the planet by just going vegan. It's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, there's so many aspects to the whole vegan thing. And let me just say something to you that I know you're on the spiritual journey, but a lot of the people I meet who are on the spiritual journey have made that step to go to cutting out animal product, because it is very much part of it. You know, the adjusting the diet, respecting the temple that you live in, respecting and other animals as sentient beings, you know, just this taking conscious steps, making conscious decisions, making conscious choices comes with the whole, okay, let's address the vegan and the meat issue. You can't ignore it if you're looking in totality of that whole paradigm of, you know, being the change you want to see in the world.
Yes. And just to bring South Africa up again, the controversial and beautiful country, look at the meat eating that's happening in South Africa.
Jeez, it's one of the worst.
They are so proud of the fact that they're meat eaters.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Vegetarians are treated like, you know, let me tell you, one of my mom's friends is vegetarian, and they take the piss out of her. Every time she comes to Bra, she brings a little vegetarian sausage, okay, and they take the mickey out of her. I feel so sorry for the woman. And her son has just died of cancer at the age of 17.
What happened?
His son died of cancer at the age of 17. A meat eater. The son of the father, meat eater. She's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
So
we've lost instinctiveness. We've lost touch with our instincts. Our instincts are that our mouth drools for bright colors. Well, when somebody gave me a boerewors roll in past days, which is, okay, for people listening, boerewors is sausage which is the meat that's been ground down and pushed into, it's usually an intestinal sac of the animal, and put into a bun. It's kind of like a hot dog. And hot dogs are an equivalent here. You know what would really get my mouth watering, and I couldn't have one without it, is the bright red ketchup, tomatoes, and the bright yellow mustard. Yeah. I mean, herbs, that's what gets you going when I saw a hamburger advert, is the bright red cheeky little slip of a tomato and the bright green of the lettuce peeking out of the bun and the patty. It was never the bun and the patty that did it for me. In fact, I remember picking the sesame seeds off buns because that was my favorite part of the bun. Bread is another toxin. It's just a man-made, fibulous, vitamin C-less poison, stodge glue that just blocks us up, just like pasta and all that. And you can still have pasta, you can still have bread, but you can make it with vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds that have been soaked and dehydrated. And there's a ton of information online these days. To have put one's head in the sand and say, I don't know, there's no information, is absolute bullshit. You can type in vegan bread recipes, raw vegan bread recipes, raw vegan pasta recipes, fruitarian pasta recipes, where I've seen pasta being made in a pasta making machine at home, somebody's home, where they put bananas into the pasta making machine, and out came strings of banana pasta, and they made a red strawberry and raspberry bolognese to go with it, and they made little walnut falafel meatball things, which were just walnuts, which had been soaked, dehydrated, and spiced, and rolled into balls. Beautiful, beautiful, fun dish. Children love it. They're still more in touch with their instincts than we are, and satisfying, beautiful. So I really believe that, yes, people that first start a spiritual journey probably will eventually end up realizing that they are not one with eating animal flesh and animal pus, animal breast milk and animal ovaries. Oh, sorry, I meant eggs and milk. And what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Maybe the very thing that South Africa needs to heal is first the spiritual awakening, because they hold on to their meat with emotion. They defend it to the death.
Yes, they bride. The bride is so much emotion associated with the fucking bride, man.
Fucking bride, eh? and even beyond the bride, the Bantu people, the black people of South Africa, are also very emotional about that the man must eat his meat, and that they would sacrifice a cow at a wedding, and it's a feast to have meat. We go way further back than 10,000 BC, people. 10,000 BC were the cavemen who were discovering fire and cooking food, denaturing proteins, denaturing carbs, moving away from the instinct to eat fruits and colors, and starting to eat meat because it's a very egocentrical thing, is that I want to be the king of the jungle, and if the king of the jungle is the lion and he eats meat, therefore I'm going to eat meat. That's like that awesome movie that we watched, District 9.
Yes.
A good old-fashioned South African, now legendary cult movie about aliens. And in there are Nigerians that want to eat the aliens so that they can get the powers of the aliens. Yes. I mean, and we can all see that and go, that's ridiculous. You're not going to get the power. When I was in the Congo and there were man-eating pygmies living in the forests, they said to me, if you do get captured by them on your jogs, which never happened, but if in the unlucky event you get captured by pygmies, they want to eat you, act mad, act insane, because then they won't eat you, because they don't want your spirit to become part of their soul. That was their belief. If you're insane, but if you're normal, they want you. They want to eat you. They want you in their bodies. Well, then in that case, I want to eat Albert Einstein, and I want to eat...
But it's true. Okay. Dr. Kreda Mutwa, who's a Zulu from, also said the same thing. He said that this is the reason we have begun to cook our meat. Is before we used to eat it, raw. The moment even you'd eat an animal meat raw and all of that stuff, you take in their essence, and it becomes one with you. By cooking it, you got rid of the essence. It's part actually of... sort of the whole conspiracy thing realm that I deal with. It's quite a complicated story, but the cooking of meat is something that's only come very, very recently in our development as human race. And you know what? It's pushed home. Have you seen how many cooking shows there are on TV? Cook this, cook that. You've got to heat and kill this, and it's unreal. Jamie Oliver, do me a favor.
I use my stove as a storage space for my fruit. I mean, I don't put it in the stove. I just put it on the stove because there's no room. There's so many oranges and pineapples and apples, and I just sprinkle them all over the oven because I'm never going to use it because I don't cook.
Yeah. Well, do you know, people think, health is such a complicated thing, and it comes down to one simple thing. And I say to people, if you eat what you grow, you will never get cancer.
Yes.
It's that simple. And probably that's something else we should talk about, Jen, is you're living in the United States now. I don't know if you've done any research on things like Codex Alimentarius.
No, what's that?
Well, it's this new Codex Alimentarius basically means food code. It's the new standards and guidelines they've brought in for food, and they're planning to irradiate all food now, even fresh and raw food, before it gets to the supermarkets and stuff. So we've been advising people to start growing their own food.
Start growing our own food. Try to, even if you've only got a balcony at your flat, use that balcony space instead of it's just nothingness. Get some pots of plants and herbs and fruits and vegetables. Get some seeds and get them now while you can. Organic seeds, and start growing your own stuff and keep those seeds going and going. Replanting.
Yeah.
And if you've got family, a mom that's a parent that have actually got a bigger garden, then start growing. Use their garden and grow stuff there that you can just go and get whenever you visit or once a week or whatever. And it'll end up cheaper in the long run. People say it's so expensive to be on raw food. Bullshit. Just grow it. It's free. Mother Nature got it right. You don't see lions lining up at the supermarket with their steak in their plastic package wrapped polystyrene foam bottomed package. Oh, I'm going to go home and fry this, or go home and cook the steak and add some sauce and salt. No. Mother Nature got it right. Lions and dogs and cats and other carnivores have a gland inside their body that produces vitamin C, so they don't need to eat fruits. They have round, socketed canines, and every single tooth is a canine. They have a jaw that cannot move from side to side like a herbivore. They have no chewing molars. They can only rip and grab and tear. They have a very high stomach acid concentration, so they can kill the parasites that come with the raw blood and flesh of the kill. And they have a very short and straight, flat, smooth colon, so that it only spends a short amount of time inside their colon, the meat byproducts that they need to shit out, and pass in the stool, and so it doesn't sit rotting. In our ape-like colons that unravel to the length of a soccer field, and our pathetic, blunt teeth and little soft nails, and our weak stomach acids, there's no way that we were designed to digest. Yes, you can eat meat, you can cook it, you can doctor it and dress it up with sauces that make your mouth water, and you can chew on it and push it down and stodge up that colon as much as you like. It's not going to digest. It's going to sit in that convoluted colon, rotting away like a graveyard, and it'll kill you from the inside. And yes, it's true. If you want to get the spirit of the animal that you're eating, oh boy, are you going to get the spirit of the animal. You're going to get the animal's revenge from the grave. It will kill you slowly. That's what you'll get for eating meat and cheese and dairy, is that it'll block the liver with cholesterol, causing systemic blockage and obesity. It'll cause heart disease and atherosclerosis and fatty plaques inside the arteries and the small capillaries going to the heart, causing heart attacks and angina and stroke as it goes into the brain. It'll cause impotence, as it also blocks the arteries of the penis, and also for women, it blocks the arteries that goes to the clitoris. So less stimulation is felt on the sexual organs on a diet of meat and dairy, animal products. And eventually it'll just rot on the inside where it gets stuck in the colon. And the colon's final job is to reabsorb that last bit of water so that it firms your stool for passing. And it's continuously reabsorbing this black, parasite-riddled crust that's full of bacteria and back into the bloodstream and continuously, systemically and chronically poisoning us from the inside. So yes, go ahead and eat animals and get their spirit in you. And that's what you'll basically end up with, is their adrenaline, their cortisol, because they're not stupid, they know when death is coming, and their fear comes back into you, into me, into us, and poisons us as well. So we ingest their fear. We ingest cortisol, adrenaline, and if they're not organic, we also ingest all the antibiotics and steroids that have been fed to the animals to keep them as healthy as possible. Plus, usually we are given only the dead, dying, diseased, and disabled animals because they don't usually harvest, which is a sick word to describe the killing of animals to feed us. They don't usually harvest the healthy animals. They wait until they're as fat and crippled as they possibly can and as big and ruined as they possibly can, and then they kill them.
Yeah. Well, farmed animals, for a start, is another big problem because all the bovine growth hormones, recombinant bovine growth hormones, which are giving our little boys like female boobs.
Yes.
You know, all the stuff that's in there. You know, it's not even about. It's not even about, okay, let's not eat meat. Let's not eat it because it's not even meat anymore. It's antibiotic stuffed because the food that these animals get fed makes them sick, okay, because it's bad food. Then they get given antibiotics to kill off these diseases, which actually, in the process, kill off us. I mean, there's been so many things linked to these hormones that they're feeding the animals that's causing growths and tumors in people. So, you know, there's a million reasons why to give it up and why to consider, you know, just a more conscious way of life. It really is about quality of life ultimately. And yes, it's tough if you've got emotional attachments to food. And trust me, we all have them because it's become such a central part of everything, even with the way we entertain and we sit around at restaurants and stuff. But you got to get out of that whole mindset. And it took me a long time to go, oh, you know what, I'm so sick of going to restaurants because everything they make that's decent, I can make at home.
Yes. And better.
And better. You know and cheaper and healthier.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are social creatures and we like to go and mingle and socialize and network. It's a beautiful thing. To receive a hug just opens our chakras. It elevates our endorphins and we feel good. We all want to feel good and happy and loved. And it just starts from within. And it radiates out. And I really believe that there is hope for mankind. And I think that ultimately we've all got to stop the madness. And like Eckhart Tolle says, if we can stop the thoughts. But even better than that, let's observe our thoughts and be present in the moment and have the sacred space as the only thing that's real. That time is not real. The future doesn't exist. The past is past and doesn't count. But then let's also start to reinvent and change our thoughts that we do experience and that we do observe into thoughts of, well, what am I doing wrong that's keeping me sick? Let me start thinking a bit more logically with those thoughts that I do have and use them appropriately. And eventually I think that the madness will logically dissolve. There's a lot of pride, a lot of ego. And when we can transcend our egos, I think that's when we'll realize, oh, this is not good for me. This hamburger, this bread, this meat, this dairy is killing me. It's killing the planet. It's not meant for a human being's consumption and digestion. And I think that violence will start to dissolve as well. And humanity will come together and realize we really are all one and be compassionate for each other. There'll be less violence. There'll be hopefully no violence. And just inner peace and peace on earth.
For sure. Compassion starts with respecting all sentient beings on this planet.
Yes.
That's where it starts.
And transcending ego. That's, if we can all just let things be, without getting offended and without getting upset. Emotions are there. They are beautiful. They are good. We're supposed to go up and down and experience the full range of emotion for a full life. But I do really think that we're onto something, Mel. I think that if South Africa can somehow, somebody needs to give up the ego first, because there's a pain body there, as Eckhart Tolle describes it. There's such a heavy pain body.
Heavy.
The black people,
a national pain body.
Yes, the black people continuously scratch it and pick at the scab and don't let it heal. They continuously poke their own wounds and rub salt in it and continuously cry out and cry, look at us, we're suffering, even though their suffering is just internal now because apartheid long ended and everybody's got an equal opportunity, if not more so for them now. But they've become so addicted to the pain of the pain body that they're almost enjoying it, it seems. It's almost like a sadistic play. And I'm just generalizing because it's not everyone. It's just a large amount of people there. And then on the Boer side, the ego of we're proudly ourselves, and this is what we are, and you are you, and we are we. Just the egos at play there. If those egos can somehow be reached, that they can transcend their egos, it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of backing down. It's more powerful than anything else on earth is to transcend one's own ego and just be. And that is when the healing will start, and that is when the madness will stop. And I believe that the meat-eating fad and trend associated with ego and pride will also end. The planet will be better off, and everyone can just join the party and have a fun life for a change.
Wouldn't that be great? Hallelujah. Listen, Jen, it's getting late here, but you know what? You and I actually just need to chat generally more, I think, as opposed to just on a camera every once a year. It's really so awesome to chat to you, and it's so lovely that you've come down this path. And funny, from opposite sides of the world, that we've maintained a similar kind of spiritual outlook, which I think ultimately is the outlook that all of humanity should be hoping to get to in order to create a fair, peaceful, sustainable world going forward.
Yes, be the change we want to see. Be the change. That's
Absolutely.
All we can do.
Absolutely.
Keep on shining that light, Mel. Keep on shining the light. You are fantastic.
Thank you, Jen.
What you do.
And you too. I love your passion, love your stories. They're always entertaining, and I'd love to speak to you again very, very soon. But for now, I think we're going to end that. And thanks for all your lovely information.
I'll speak to you again in a year.
No way, man. Not again. We're going to do this more often, I've decided. Now that I've got your Skype details back.
Planning on having children, and they're going to be totally raw, and homeschooling. So we'll have lots more interesting and crazy stuff to discuss.
Absolutely, and that's my outlook too when I have kids. If I have them, I'm still debating at this stage. But yeah, homeschooling and raw, I agree. No vaccinations.
You will be an amazing mother. You will have the most beautiful children, and I think that it would be a wonderful thing. Yes, I know this world is overpopulated. It's a selfish thing. Blah blah blah. Fuck it. Because Mother Nature will sort it out. Mother Nature is not dumb. She knows what to do. So everything will be fine.
I believe that, and I'll come to see you. I'll come see you in your Hawaiian farm retreat with your children and my children, and we'll do a Christmas in Hawaii sometime.
Awesome. I'm not sold on Hawaii yet, but I'm definitely going back to have another look.
Yeah.
California so far, California. But yes, you're always welcome, and you're one of my most dearest friends. I absolutely love you. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity to reach other people.
You're welcome, Ginger. Do yourself a favor while you're in the States. Go check out Miami. You'll love it.
Ay, caramba.
Yeah, no, seriously, Miami. If you like California, Miami to me is just one up on California. But it's lots of beautiful places. America's a world modern country. But I'll leave it there for now, Jen. Let's speak soon, hey?
Yeah, absolutely, Mel. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you.
I enjoy it too, man. Way too much. We must do it more often. Love you lots, girl. Take care.
Love you.
Bye-bye.